My fiancé said, I need to confess. I hooked up with my ex in Savannah. I said, then the wedding is over. I said it in the parking lot and drove home alone. By sunrise, her sister was calling, her mother was texting, and she was outside my condo begging me not to cancel everything. Original post: I'm Mason, 34, and 11 days before my wedding, I found out my fiancé thought confession worked like a refund policy. Her name was Rachel, 31. We'd been together just over 4 years, engaged for 8 months, and until that night I honestly thought we were fine. Not perfect, nobody is, but stable. Adult, built for the long run. I live in Charlotte. I work in procurement for a medical supply company. Rachel worked for a boutique event firm and, fittingly, had very strong opinions about every single wedding detail. Linens, chairs, candle heights, menu cards, signature cocktails, the exact shade of green in the bridesmaids' dresses. She loved the production of it all. I paid for more of it than I should have, but I didn't resent that at the time. I had the condo. I had a decent salary. I had savings. I had convinced myself this was the stretch before the payoff. One more push and then the life we'd planned would begin. We were getting married at a hotel outside Asheville. Small mountain ceremony. 68 guests. Weekend package. Between deposits, vendors, flights, clothing, and the honeymoon in Napa, I had a little over $18,000 tied up in this wedding, and about half of that was non-refundable. Rachel knew the numbers because I was the one keeping the spreadsheet. She joked all the time that I was the CFO of our marriage before the marriage had even started. 3 weeks before the wedding, she went on a bachelorette trip to Savannah with her sister Brooke and 4 friends. I didn't love the trip, but not because I was controlling. It was more that Rachel had started acting strange after she got back. Her phone suddenly lived face down. She was overly affectionate for 2 days, then distracted for 4. 1 minute she wanted to talk seating charts. The next she would stare out the passenger window like she was waiting for weather to arrive. I asked twice if something was wrong. She said no both times. Stress, she said. Wedding stress. The confession came on a Thursday night after our final menu meeting with the venue coordinator. We had driven to Asheville for the tasting and were parked outside the hotel just after 9. I thought we were done for the night. I was already mentally halfway home, already planning where we'd stop for coffee on the drive back. Rachel turned off the music and said, I need to confess something before we get married. Right there, my whole body went cold. She was gripping her phone with both hands, looking down at it instead of at me. Then she said it. In Savannah, after the second night out, she ran into her ex, Tyler. They all ended up at another bar. Her friends went back early. She stayed. They talked. She drank too much. One thing led to another. She hooked up with him at his hotel, then she started crying. Not loud crying. The kind where someone wants credit for how hard this is for them. She kept talking fast, like speed could soften impact. It meant nothing. It was one night. It made her realize she wanted me. She couldn't start a marriage with a lie. She was confessing because I deserved honesty. Then the part that really told me who she was, she said maybe this could make us stronger if we handled it the right way. I just looked at her. I asked one question first. When were you planning to tell me if I hadn't been sitting in this car with you tonight? She hesitated. Tiny pause. But enough. Then she said after the wedding, or maybe after the honeymoon. I didn't want to ruin everything before I knew how to explain it. There it was. This wasn't confession for my sake, it was scheduling. She wanted absolution with the least possible financial inconvenience. I asked if Brooke knew. She nodded. I asked if anyone else knew. 2 bridesmaids, maybe her cousin. And apparently, according to Rachel, all of them told her she needed to tell me because marriage starts with honesty. Easy advice when it's not your wedding bill. She reached for my arm and said, please say something, so I did. Then the wedding is over. That was my entire sentence, calm, flat, final. She stared at me like I had stepped off a moving train. Then came the panic. Mason, no, don't say that just because you're shocked. Don't do something irreversible over one terrible mistake. I confessed. Doesn't that matter? I told her confession doesn't erase the thing you're confessing to. Then I got out of the car. She followed me into the parking lot in heels, half crying, half angry, asking if I was seriously throwing away 4 years because she told the truth. That phrase came up again and again, because I told the truth. Like the offense wasn't sleeping with her ex. It was me failing to reward the confession. I said I'd drive myself home. She could take her own car. She asked if we could at least get through the weekend before making any decisions. I said the decision had already been made. Then I left. On the drive back to Charlotte, she called 11 times. I let every call ring out. Then came the texts. Please don't do this in anger. You are not thinking clearly. I told you because I love you. You are punishing honesty. Call me before you cancel anything. I didn't call. I got home just after midnight, took off my shoes, stood in my kitchen, and noticed how quiet the condo felt. Rachel hadn't fully moved in because she was waiting for her lease to end after the wedding, but she was there often enough that my place had become half hers by habit. Dresses in my guest room closet. Makeup in the bathroom, shoes in my entryway. 2 framed photos of us, 1 wedding binder, a ring dish by the sink, a whole layer of her everywhere. I packed it all. Not violently, not with the energy of revenge, just methodically, dresses into garment bags, shoes into boxes, cosmetics zipped into pouches, curling iron, planner, invitation samples, the custom cocktail napkin mock-ups she cared about more than she ever cared about me apparently. I even wrapped the little ceramic dish her grandmother gave her so it wouldn't chip. By 2:10 a.m. I had 2 suitcases, 3 storage bins, 1 garment bag, and a banker's box full of wedding-related materials lined up by the door. Then I texted her once, "The wedding is canceled. Your things are packed and safe. Come Sunday at 1 p.m. with Brooke or your mother and pick them up." After that, I started making calls. Venue first. I lost $4,500 immediately. Photographer next. Lost another $1,200. The vineyard tour in Napa converted into credit, but the flights cost me $780 in fees. Florist deposit gone. DJ deposit partially refundable. Final damage by sunrise was just under $7,000 with more likely to follow. Expensive night. Still cheaper than marrying someone who thought the phrase "I need to confess" was supposed to function like a reset button. At 6:14 a.m. my phone lit up with Brooke's name. I didn't answer. Then Rachel again. Then a text from Brooke, "Please don't cancel this over something she regrets. She told you because she wants to build an honest marriage." I looked at that message for a second and laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because it was so transparent. By 7:00 a.m. Rachel was outside my condo building. Front desk called up to say there was a woman downstairs asking if I'd come talk for 5 minutes. I said no, and that if she tried to come up they were not to buzz her in. Then I turned my phone off, took the first real breath I'd taken all night and slept harder than I had in months. That should have told me everything. Update 1. 4 days later Sunday pickup was exactly the circus I expected. Rachel showed up with Brooke and enough performance energy to power a theater. She was wearing one of those soft, neutral outfits she used whenever she wanted to look fragile and reasonable. Brooke looked tense, not angry, just tired. I checked the lobby camera first, then took the bins downstairs myself because I wasn't letting them into my condo. Rachel started crying before I even reached the elevator. "Mason, please, can we not do this down here? I said we were absolutely doing this down there." I set the bins against the wall by the mailroom, handed Brooke the garment bag, and passed Rachel the wedding binder last. She stared at it like I had handed her a body. Then she tried the first rewrite. She said I was acting like she had carried on a full affair. It was one night, one mistake, one confession made before vows because she wanted to be honest. She kept saying that word again. Honest, honest, honest. I said, "Rachel, you were not honest when it happened. You were not honest when you got home. You were not honest when I asked what was wrong. You were honest when the wedding was paid for and the deadline was close." That hit. Brooke looked down immediately, which told me she knew it too. Rachel said I was being cruel, that lots of couples survive this, that I was too rigid to understand what grace looked like. Then she said something that ended any remaining softness I had. If I wanted to lie, I could have. I gave you the truth and you used it against me. Used it against her. like I had weaponized her cheating by acknowledging it. I told her I wasn't using anything against her. I was making a decision with the information she gave me. She asked if I was going to tell everyone why the wedding was canceled. I said, if people ask me directly, I will not lie for you. That's when she got angry for real, not teary, not pleading, angry. She stepped closer and said I was going to humiliate her over something deeply personal. Brooke put a hand on her arm and said, "Ratch, stop." Rachel shook her off and said I was proving exactly why she had been scared to tell me, because I cared more about pride than love. I said no, I cared more about reality than image. Then she took off the ring and shoved it into the top bin hard enough that it bounced off the side and landed on a sweater. Brooke flinched. I didn't. They took the boxes and left. An hour later, the flying monkey started. First, Kelly, one of the bridesmaids, texted from a number I didn't have saved. "I know you're hurt, but punishing her for confessing is actually insane. You should be thanking her for not marrying you under a lie." Then her cousin Amber messaged me on Instagram telling me every adult relationship requires forgiveness and nuance. That word, nuance. Amazing how often people discover nuance when the consequences belong to someone else. I blocked both. Then, surprisingly, I got an email from Pastor Aaron, the pastor Rachel wanted to use for the ceremony. He said he had heard there was serious conflict and wanted to encourage prayer, patience, and the possibility of restoration if both hearts remained open. I didn't respond. I just forwarded his email to spam and moved on. The unexpected part came that evening. Rachel's mother, Linda, called me. I almost didn't answer because I assumed it would be another guilt trip. Instead, she sounded measured. Embarrassed, even. She said Rachel told the family the wedding was canceled because she shared something painful from her past, and I reacted without compassion. Linda said Brooke's face at dinner made her think there was more to it, so she was asking me directly. I told her the whole thing. Savannah, ex-boyfriend, hotel, 3 weeks ago. Confession in the parking lot 11 days before the wedding, then the part about how Rachel said maybe it could make us stronger. Linda went quiet long enough that I checked my screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Then she said, "Mason, I am so sorry." She didn't defend Rachel, didn't ask me to reconsider. Didn't bring up forgiveness or shame or appearances. She just said she was sorry and that confession was not the same as accountability. Exact phrase. I remember because it was the first time anyone from her side had said something real. Then she added, for flavor, if she wanted grace, she should have started with restraint. I actually laughed. Linda told me she'd speak to the family and asked if Rachel was still contacting me. I said yes. She sighed and said she'd handle what she could, but that Rachel had a habit of believing honesty should erase consequences. That sentence explained a lot. Meanwhile, Rachel tried one more little trick. She contacted the wedding planner and told her we were taking a few days and not to release vendor holds yet. The planner called me because, thankfully, every contract and password ran through my email. I confirmed all cancellations, changed the shared planning login, and took the last administrative tools out of Rachel's hands. Total losses by then, $84.60, still cheaper than a divorce. What surprised me most wasn't the money, it was the peace. By Monday, I was sleeping through the night. I wasn't checking my phone every 10 minutes. I wasn't managing someone else's feelings while ignoring my own. I went to work. I finished a supplier audit I'd been dragging for weeks. I went to the gym after. I made dinner in my own kitchen and ate without hearing someone explain why their bad decision was actually proof of emotional maturity. That calm lasted 3 whole days. Then Rachel escalated. Update 2. About 3 weeks later, if Rachel had stopped at apologies, we would have just become one of those cautionary, almost married stories people tell over drinks. She didn't stop. The first stunt happened at my office. I work in a 5-story building off South Tryon. Nothing glamorous. Just procurement, vendor meetings, contract reviews, and a lot of people pretending urgency is leadership. Rachel knew I hated drama at work, which is why I assume she chose it. Reception called upstairs and said there was a woman in the lobby asking for me. She said it was urgent and personal. I already knew. I told them not to send her up. 10 minutes later, my direct supervisor, Nathan, walked into my office holding a white bakery box and an envelope. He set both on my desk and said very carefully, "I'm assuming this is not a supply issue." Inside the box were lemon bars from a place Rachel knew I liked. In the envelope was a handwritten letter on cream stationery, because of course it was. I didn't read it right away. I took photos first. Then I opened it. 4 pages. The entire thing was basically a sermon on confession. She wrote that what she did in Savannah was horrible, but the fact that she confessed before marriage should have shown me the depth of her love. She said my refusal to forgive her proved I cared more about image than intimacy. She said I was trying to turn her into the villain because I couldn't handle a complicated truth. There was one line that actually made me laugh out loud in my office. "I need you to understand that Tyler was the mistake, but you are still my home." No. Absolutely not. Nathan asked if I needed HR involved. I told him not yet, but I did ask building security to keep her out if she came back. Then I sent the letter, the lobby footage request, and all prior screenshots to a local attorney named Neil who a friend recommended. Neil billed $410 an hour and sounded like a man who had personally lost all interest in nonsense sometime around 1998. He told me to document everything, respond minimally if at all, and not meet with her alone anywhere. Good advice. 3 nights later, Rachel showed up outside my condo after 10 p.m. Ring camera caught the whole thing. She stood in front of my door with the scrapbook from our engagement party tucked against her chest like a prop. At first, she spoke softly into the camera. "Mason, I know you can hear me. I just want 5 minutes. Then she shifted into wounded philosopher mode. I told the truth because I wanted our marriage to be real. I didn't know telling the truth would cost me everything. That line again. Everything happened to her. Nothing happened because of her. I didn't open the door. She stayed there 9 minutes, then set the scrapbook on the mat and left. I saved the footage. The next morning, I got a Venmo request for $8,500 labeled "half of wedding losses you caused by canceling." I declined it with one note: "Do not contact me again." That same afternoon, a mutual friend named Derek texted me. Not to attack, more to warn. He said Rachel had been telling people I ended the wedding because I couldn't handle that she had a past. That I punished her for being honest and humiliated her over a confession. I sent him 2 screenshots, her original texts from after the parking lot, and the line where she admitted it happened 3 weeks earlier with her ex in Savannah. Derek replied, "Oh, that is not the version she's telling." I said I figured. Then came the fake crisis. At 12:41 a.m. on a Tuesday, I got a text from an unknown number saying, "Rachel is in the ER and asking for you. It's serious, call me." I almost rolled my eyes off my face. I called the hospital directly. No Rachel, no emergency contact note, nothing. 7 minutes later, another text came from the same number. "She collapsed from stress. Please don't be heartless. Blocked." At 7:15 that morning, Brooke called. Real number this time. Real voice. She sounded mortified. She said Rachel had not been in the hospital and she was trying to get her to stop doing stupid things. Then Brooke said something I respected a lot. "I'm not calling to ask you to take her back. I'm calling to apologize for not shutting this down sooner." That was the first decent thing Brooke had done in the whole situation. I thanked her and told her if Rachel kept showing up I'd have to go legal. Brooke said she understood. Apparently Rachel did not. The last straw came at a restaurant. About a week later, I went out with a woman named Hannah. Nothing dramatic. My coworker Elise had been trying to set us up for months. Hannah was a physical therapist, funny without trying too hard and blissfully normal. We met at a wine bar in South End. Nice place. Low lights. Good food. Easy conversation. No performance. No emotional trapdoors. Halfway through appetizers, Hannah's expression shifted slightly and she looked past my shoulder. Rachel was standing there. I still don't know who told her where I'd be. One of the mutuals, probably. She was wearing the blue dress I once told her made her look like summer and holding herself like she expected the room to side with her. She looked at Hannah first, then at me and said, "So this is why you moved on so fast." I said, "Rachel, leave." She ignored me and spoke to Hannah like I wasn't there. I'm his fiancée. Or I was until he decided punishing honesty was more important than love. Hannah, to her credit, didn't flinch. She just said, I think you should go. Rachel laughed this brittle little laugh and said, wow, he already found another audience. The manager came over. I had already stood up by then, not aggressively, just enough to place myself between them. I said, she is not with us. Please ask her to leave. Rachel started crying instantly. Full public collapse, said I was erasing her, replacing her, humiliating her. Then, in one last burst of bad judgment, she reached for Hannah's wine glass and knocked it over onto the table. That got security. The manager pulled Rachel aside. Hannah blotted her dress with napkins, and I paid the bill before we'd even seen entrees. Police weren't called, but the restaurant absolutely documented it, and Neil loved that for us. The next morning, he sent Rachel a formal cease and desist. By then, I had enough for a protective order petition if she ignored it. Also by then, my life was moving in the opposite direction of hers. Nathan put me up for a senior procurement lead role because I had carried a brutal contract renegotiation without missing deadlines despite all this chaos. Hannah texted first the next day, joked that she didn't usually judge a man by the number of exes who crash his appetizers, and agreed to see me again. Rachel had confession. I had peace, better prospects, and a second date. Final update: about 2 months later, the hearing happened 6 weeks after the cease and desist. Rachel ignored the letter, not dramatically, just persistently. 1 more lobby drop-off, 2 more emails, a bouquet sent to my condo concierge with no card because apparently anonymity was now romance. Neil said the pattern mattered more than any single act. Repeated unwanted contact after explicit notice. Home, work, social setting, third parties, fake emergency. That tells the story by itself, so we filed. I showed up to court with a binder thick enough to qualify as upper body training, screenshots from the night of the confession, her parking lot texts, the letter from my office, ring footage stills from the late night visit, the fake ER text, the Venmo request, security incident note from work, restaurant statement from the manager. Neil tabbed everything. God bless organized attorneys. Rachel arrived in a navy dress and beige cardigan, hair soft, makeup minimal, expression carefully devastated, conservative, earnest. The whole visual pitch was obvious. Good woman made one mistake, punished by cold man. Brooke was there. Linda too. That surprised me. Rachel's attorney tried to frame the whole thing as a failed reconciliation effort after a painful but honest disclosure. Those were his exact words. Honest disclosure. He said Rachel was not dangerous, just emotionally overwhelmed by the sudden cancellation of her wedding and trying to obtain closure. Neil didn't even look up when he said, closure does not require unauthorized office visits, nighttime residence contact, false medical emergencies, or confrontation of a third party on a date. That was a fun sentence to hear out loud. Then the judge started asking direct questions. Did Miss Rachel admit to sexual contact with a former partner during the engagement? Yes. Did the petitioner end the relationship immediately after learning this? Yes. Was she asked to stop contacting him? Yes. Did she continue? Yes. Did she appear at his workplace after being told not to? Yes. Did she come to his residence late at night? Yes. Did she send a false or unverifiable emergency message to provoke contact? Rachel's attorney tried to object on wording, but the judge just looked at the texts and asked whether she had authorized them. Rachel said she had asked a friend to reach out because she was in emotional distress. So, yes. Then came the part I will remember forever. The judge asked Rachel why, if she understood the relationship was over, she believed repeated contact was appropriate. Rachel actually said, because I confessed before the wedding. I thought that mattered. The judge blinked once and said, it may matter morally. It does not obligate forgiveness, and it certainly does not create a right to continue contact after refusal. That was basically the case. Protective order granted. 1 year. No direct or indirect contact, no showing up at my home or workplace. No using friends or relatives to pass messages. No approaching me in public. Clean, simple, necessary. Rachel cried in the hallway afterward. Real crying, I think. Brooke led her out. Linda paused near the doors and looked at me for a second like she wanted to say something but wasn't sure she had earned it. Then she just nodded. Later that evening she sent one text, "I'm sorry for all of it. I hope you have a peaceful life." I believed she meant that. The rest settled fast after the order. Rachel's social media shifted from vague heartbreak posts to those generic quote graphics about how truth-tellers get punished by insecure people. A mutual sent me one screenshot, and I asked him not to send any more. I genuinely did not care. Work got better. The senior role came through with a salary bump and a bigger bonus target. Hannah and I kept seeing each other. Slowly. Like actual adults. She knew the broad outline, not the whole courtroom scrapbook version, and she never once tried to turn my boundaries into evidence of emotional damage. She'd text things like, "Hope your meeting went well," or "I left cookies at your desk because you sounded tired." Normal things. Safe things. It took me a while to realize how abnormal the old normal had been. My condo started feeling like mine again too. Rachel's decorative staging disappeared. So did the wedding folders, mood boards, sample ribbons, and fake eucalyptus bundles she kept insisting we needed for shelves no guest would ever inspect. I repainted the guest room, donated the extra folding chairs we'd bought for pre-wedding events, and used the Napa flight credit on a solo weekend in Sonoma 3 months later. It was quiet, beautiful, expensive in a different, much healthier way. A couple people still asked what happened. My answer stayed consistent. She cheated on her bachelorette trip, confessed 11 days before the wedding, and I ended it. Most people didn't ask follow-ups after that. The ones who did usually just shook their heads and said some version of, "Well, at least you found out before you married her." Exactly. That's the whole lesson here. Confession is not absolution. Telling the truth after betrayal is the first step of accountability, not a coupon for instant forgiveness. Rachel kept trying to present her confession like it was proof of character, as if speaking the truth late somehow outweighed what she did early. It doesn't work that way. You do not get rewarded because your guilt finally got loud enough to become honesty, and you definitely do not get to harass someone because they accepted your confession and still chose themselves. I'm grateful she told me before the wedding. I really am. But I'm even more grateful I understood what the confession actually was. Not healing, not courage, not love, just late truth attached to early betrayal. If you've ever dealt with someone who thought confessing erased what they did, comment whether you faced something similar or what your opinion is. Subscribe, like, and share if this story hit home, and tell me below what you think you would have done.